All right, Genesis chapter 12, very interesting chapter to get into when we look at the life of Abram in the early days of his walk of faith. He's living in a time where people, if you look back in chapter 11 or back in chapter 5, the age that they're having a son, the age that children are being born, is into their 120s, 140s. So the fact that Abram and Sarah are childless and Abram is 75, in the context of that era, isn't that crazy? But it also signifies that maybe she's simply barren, and that's the larger cause. And when they're struggling with this, it's because they haven't had any children. Not just that they haven't had that one child, where they're looking at a child, period. She's barren. Everybody around them is just having lots and lots of kids, and they're barren. So they're an anomaly in that sense. In that sense, they're an anomaly. And that's the heaviness on them as a couple. So God tells them to leave these first few verses in chapter 12. God says to get out of your country, from your family, your father's house, to a land that I will show you. So to a land that I will show you, Abram's leaving without knowing. So he's leaving by faith. And God says, I will take you to a land, but I'm going to make a great nation of you. I'm going to bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and curse him who curses you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So that last phrase kind of references Christ. The Messiah will come through Abram's line. He doesn't yet comprehend that. But his name is going to be great. His family is going to be blessed. God is promising all these things, but he has no kids. And this is the hang-up for Abram for the next 20 years or so. Certainly the next maybe 30 to 40 years. He's wondering what's going on. So this is going to be our storyline for probably 4 chapters. 5 chapters walking out the wrestling match that Abram has. So he departed, verse 4, as the Lord had spoken, and he was 75. So he's 75 years old when he leaves Haran, when he leaves his homeland, and he's headed to Canaan. God's going to show him where to stop. And when he gets there, down in verse 7, he's like, I'm going to give you all this land to your descendants. It's all going to be for you. And Abram's excited, but he's like, but where are the kids? How's it going to work? So he moved there to the mountain east of Bethel, there in verse 8. And they journeyed going all the way to the south. So there's a great famine. The second half of the chapter, there's a great famine. They go into Egypt. And this is where we begin to see that Abram, the great father of faith, has some chinks in the armor. When it comes to trusting God for their own provision or their own protection, Abram tends to try and make a solution for himself. And he asks his beautiful wife Sarah to pretend to be his sister. And then Pharaoh of Egypt sees her, she's beautiful, considers her as his sister. Well, she can be part of his harem. So he brings her into his harem. He doesn't touch her, but God protects her. And yet in the process, Pharaoh is plagued. So God uses a Pharaoh who doesn't know the name of God to rebuke Abram, this father of faith, saying, what have you done? Why did you lie to me? Take her and all of your stuff and go. And that's chapter 12. So we see the chinks in the armor, but we see the predicted end, the hope, the prophetic end of all the families in the world being blessed by Abram and those who are coming from his line, which ultimately is the Christ. Enjoy chapter 12.